really good shape. Oh my God.
But anyhow, going into day 6, this is the last day we'll spend together. There is one more day, and that's just a day of testing. If you enjoyed the stage 2 test, well, then you get to enjoy that same experience 3 more times. Because we'll have a couple of other ones here as we go along. And those couple of other ones that we have are the stage 3 exam and final exams A and B. Now, I encourage you, like always, take the exams and see, where do I need to focus more of my attention? Weather's a weak spot for people no matter what. You'll find what parts of this are relatively natural to you. Maybe you are a chart person. You're a real, anything on that chart is really simple. A lot of people are, because the answers to the chart are given to you on the chart. You'll see 100% of all of it on the chart. Like I said, some people are chart people, and that's kind of natural. All of the chart answers are given to you right there on the legends. Some people are performance people. They understand air density. They understand the performance charts very well. They understand the theory behind performance, and it just links to them. Find out where your strengths and weaknesses are. If you can self-assess and come to your flight training center and say, you know what, I can tell you right now that weather is not my go-to. I'm just not quite a weather person. I want to get to a point where I can use this and I can serve some sort of purpose to the flight plan process. That's all I need. I don't want to be a weather enthusiast, but I just want to get to where I serve a purpose with weather. Let that person know, and they can help you gain that perspective. All right, so that stuff's important. Go through the stage test. That's my encouragement to you. We'll go through ground lesson 13 and 14. If you remember, I said last night that we're going to plan a flight today, and we definitely will. We'll get into ground lesson 13. Immediately after ground lesson 13, we're going to bounce into advanced avionics and advanced navigation, that one little section that we didn't cover last night, because VORs kind of melts everybody's brain. All right, VORs, if you didn't understand VORs, you don't understand triangulation or how to use it, this is okay. You'll get to a point where I could find my way around a little bit using this, but later on today, we'll take a look and find out, well, what are these advanced navigation aids out there? How many satellites do I have, and how does that help me find my way around? All right, so here we go, part 5, integrating pilot knowledge and skills. Integrating pilot knowledge and skills is on there. As so far everything that we've done, let's put it together. All right, let's discuss some of those GPS ideas. Let's get through this flight plan itself. Some of the scenarios are going to have you flying an airplane without a GPS, right? And some of them are really going to challenge you. So let's see how we put this stuff together. Guided Flight Discovery, Chapter 10. And your Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, Chapter 2. The FAA updates their books every now and then. This is an FAA publication, okay? You get it for free from a place called the Government Printing Office, okay? You could write them a letter. They'll send it to you. Well, they charge you whatever it takes for it to be sent, okay? So if the airfare or the shipping is quite a bit to get it over here, well, they're going to charge you the shipping. Same thing in the U.S., they'll charge us the shipping. But they give it to you for free. Where else could I get it for free? www.faa.gov, right? PDF is a great thing. And there's something else that PDF has that the regular books don't, and that's Control F. I want to find where I'm going. Here, let's do it like that. But this is available to you for free. And this one was also recently updated. It was updated in 2016. Prior to that, it was somewhere in the, I think, early 2000s or late 90s. Fact check me if you want to, but it was a long time ago. It was a long time between those two updates. This section that we're getting ready to get into was Chapter 17. And that was aeronautical decision making. The one on day 1 where I said we're going to touch on it. We'll just brush it real quick. And then at the end of the course, we'll go through the entire thing. Here it is. And now it's chapter 2. Chapter 2 in this book is nothing more than, this is history, right? Here's what Da Vinci thought and dreamed up and pictures that he drew and all that. So chapter 1 is kind of a gimme. Essentially, this is the very first thing the FAA wants you to know about, is that aeronautical decision making. And we'll go through it by sections. The very first section is aviation physiology. How does the human body react to these changes that we'll experience while we're flying? So, key terms. We're not going to become experts. We won't be able to perform surgery by the end of this, but let's see how the body reacts a little bit. Vestibular disorientation, respiration, hypoxia, hypoxic hypoxia, time of useful consciousness, hypemic hypoxia, carbon monoxide poisoning, stagnant hypoxia, histotoxic hypoxia, and supplemental oxygen. So far, everything that we've talked about is the result of some sort of pressure difference and some sort of relationship to how my body is using oxygen. Then we go into pressurization, decompression, and hyperventilation. Talk about the eye for a little bit, retina, cones, rods, visual purple, all right, why we use red filtered lenses. Autokinesis, a false horizon. We did discuss these a little bit before. Landing illusions, flicker vertigo, disorientation. Kinesthetic sense, visual sense, spatial disorientation, vestibular system, and semicircular canals. Okay? Ta-da! We're going to fly airplanes, and we're supposed to have eagle eyes, right? Our whole entire body is supposed to work properly and function properly. And one of the very most important parts of us as aviators is our eyes. How do I avoid a collision hazard? That's perfect. The FAA gives me exactly 3 words. See and avoid. See it, avoid it. Okay? That sounds like a pop song all of a sudden. All right, see and avoid it. That's it. That's exactly what you do. Not look at the screen, not listen to ATC, not hope that, pray to some saint that I don't crash. No. See and avoid. It sounds very simple, but make sure that you are willing and capable of doing just exactly that. That's not book theory. That's not, I'm saying that because that's the right answer and it's supposed to be that way. That's not me saying wishful thinking. That's me telling you, if you don't want to crash, the only thing that will help you not crash is see and avoid. Okay? All right, well, how do the eyes work then? The eyes work with a series of cones and rods. All right? They're active during different parts of the day. Rods and cones, the film of the retina, this part of the eye, at the back of the eye, are the receptors which record the image and transmit it through the optic nerve to the brain, and then later my brain will interpret that. Okay? The pupil, or the aperture, is the opening at the center of the iris. Size of the pupil adjusted to control the amount of light enter the eye. Okay, fine. Your eye's going wider or narrower depending on how much light I'm having come through. Light passes through the cornea and then through the lens to focus on the retina. You can see the optic nerve. Part of the interesting thing about the optic nerve is that it creates a blind spot. I will not be able to see if the image is concentrated on this part of the eye. I will not be able to see that. During the daytime, that's not much of a challenge. We're using rods and cones. It depends on what's happened, what part of the day or night I'm flying in. But this part of the eye becomes susceptible to blind spots at night. Okay, here I got an airplane, and there's an X right there. Now they have a scenario where I can develop an idea and an appreciation for my dominant eye, whichever one of my 2 eyes is dominant. And you can take your hands like this and you could cover up one of these X's in front of your eye, and then you bring it back all the way, whichever eye you get to, that's your dominant eye. All right? Additionally, If I'm flying day or night, I could lose sight of that other pilot, whether it's my dominant eye or not. At nighttime, I could lose sight of it just by it being broadcast or being presented to this part of the eye, to that part of the retina. So I would use off-center viewing. Now, daytime, perfect, right here. Cones are active. Nighttime, rods are active, and I have a night blind spot. So my eye will not be able to process information for any object that's presented directly in front of me. It just will not. Okay, couple of things that we need to know about this. How do I avoid any kind of spatial disorientation? The answer is simple. I still use my eyes. Looking for any kind of collision avoidance, I have to look outside the airplane, see and avoid. But I need to rely on these instruments. I have to begin to rely on the instruments. What's happening with these instruments and how are they presenting the flight data to me as a pilot? Okay? Some of that becomes challenging at nighttime because I've got to use some sort of light to shine on my map. If I don't use a red filtered lens on that map, I could distort my eye, right? I could make that pupil contract slightly and cause me not to have as effective night vision. If you fly the airplanes at night, remember one of the things I told you is to make sure all your lights are working. Because if your lights aren't working, it will be a very, very challenging flight. Additionally, if you're the pilot that always uses some sort of electronic device, you need to find a way to look for your night mode and practice and rehearse this night mode in something other than an airplane cockpit. Because if you turn on your iPad and it shines the whole cockpit full of white light, you won't be able to see very well at all. Okay? Visual pilots, and quite frankly, whether you're visual or not, it doesn't matter. You are the only one responsible to see and avoid that collision. Okay, see a steady green light and a flashing red light? The airplane is passing from left to right. We were talking which side of that airplane the green light is on, which side the red light's on. It lets me know who has the right of way. If I see a green light, I know I have the right of way. If I see a red position light to the right of the green light, the airplane is flying toward me. A steady white light combined with a flashing red light. What's this flashing red light? What is that thing? Keep saying flashing red here, flashing red, flashing red. What is that? It's the beacon light. Is that required? Is it required during the daytime? Yes. It is required during the daytime if your airplane was manufactured after 1996, March 11th, 1996. And it's required for all airplanes during the daytime if they're operated for hire. So if someone is paying for that flight training, it has to be on prior to engine start. That's what alerts ground crews that the engine is either starting or will be starting soon. So that's the flashing red light. And just serve as kind of a couple of examples there of how I can rapidly detect which way the airplane is coming at me. Okay? All right. False horizons. And I got another slide that gives maybe a little, I think one of the older illustrations did a little better job than this one. But the other day we discussed, how do you have night VFR? What is this idea of night VFR? It's a real thing. But you need to make sure that you're looking at the instruments and absorbing all the information from these instruments. Okay? It would be very easy for you to accidentally align your flight path, align your attitude with a horizon that you think is presented, either by lights or by some sort of a city or a feature out in the distance. The same thing could happen in low-level clouds. I might think that's the horizon, and it's actually not, causing me to pitch up and bank just a little bit. Now, I think one of the better illustrations comes right out of the FAA handbooks, and that's here. Here's your actual horizon. This is an apparent horizon. How do I know that this is the actual horizon, other than this thing telling me that it is? How do I know that? You see here? That's exactly right. I've got these instruments. They're not required. They're not required. But I've got these instruments, and if they're operating properly, I need to take a little bit of time and appreciate what's happening here. Instead of just seeing that, hey, this looks like a horizon. Maybe I'm flying level there. Okay? It's been known to cause crashes, been known to cause incidents. Don't fall victim to that. Okay. Couple of visual disorientations. Elements that create any type of visual obstruction, such as rain or haze, can cause you to fly as a low approach. So if there's rain or haze, you'll trend just slightly low because of that rain or haze. Okay? Well, I'm not sure. Maybe it just causes the light to refract slightly. It's going to make you fly a little bit lower of an approach. What can I look at if I'm trying to fly this airplane and land and verify that I am on the right approach path? Is there anything at all that I can look at? The PAPI or the VASI, the visual approach slope indicator. Remember we had those 4 lights on one side of the runway where if it was 2 and 2, 2 white and 2 red, then that was good to go. Or we had the VASI that was a near bar and a far bar. And we said white over white, you're too high. Red over white, you're all right. Red over red, you're dead. Okay. These are things that you could use. If that tool is there, make sure you're using it. Okay. Over water at night or over featureless terrain such as snow-covered ground, there's a natural tendency to fly a lower than normal approach. And then penetration of fog can create the illusion of pitching up. As soon as I penetrate the fog or a cloud, it can create an illusion that my airplane is pitching up. These are things that I need to know and realize and understand. This is how my body reacts. It's time to start using these instruments a little bit. Am I trained yet to rely on the instruments? 100% no. You'll get 3 hours training on these. And during that 3 hours, you probably won't be very good at doing it at all. But you can learn certain things, such as an attitude indicator. You can learn certain things like looking outside the airplane and seeing if there's an approach path indicator. Okay, something else. Remember we said that there were certain lines on the runway that described exactly how wide that runway was? On a precision approach runway there, that's true. Each one of these lines, each one of these blocks on the side of it are going to describe 25 feet. So if I have 4 of them on each side, that's a 100-foot runway. Okay? Not all of them have that, but that's a good indication for me to figure out if I have a narrower or a wider than normal runway. Where else could I find that information? Boom. The ugly green book. But you're not going to fly the airplane holding the ugly green book. So do some homework. Do exactly what we're going to do today in our class. All right? All right, so narrower than normal. What does this look like? Well, it looks like I'm a little bit high. The runway's way down there. You're actually on descent path. See the VASI? Red over white. You're all right. At normal runway, this is what you're used to seeing. But if you're at a wider than normal runway, this looks like I'm too low. You're actually right on path. Okay? All right. If it upslopes or downslope, you can see the same thing. This illustrates views of how a normal 3-degree approach might look for upslope and downslope runways. You'll get maybe less than 1 degree upslope or downslope. That could happen. The comprehension of this entire course is for you to know that these things can affect you. This one's not terribly likely to happen. You'll find different runway widths quite commonly. You won't find one that upslopes greater than 1 degree or downslopes greater than 1 degree very often, but it still could cause that visual illusion, okay? And you see my 2 happy guys here, 2 happy people, okay? This is what you're gonna look like flying during those 3 hours on your private pilot training, okay? You got an instructor over here trying to figure out where everything is because that instructor is looking outside and also finding out really cool things for you to do to kind of get you all off balance. And you're looking only at the flight instruments. How much fun is this? Well, it's more fun than finding yourself in a cloud for the first time without any kind of training at all. I guarantee that. Okay, the ear. How in the world does the ear work? Well, it's especially that inner ear. The inner ear has those semicircular canals. Your body is designed to do this all on its own, and it does this all on its own. You normally don't feel any effects of it because there's not a miscompare between your eyes and these semicircular canals very often at all. While you're operating out here on a day-to-day basis, you see something with your eyes and it matches exactly what's happening with the fluid inside your ear. If it doesn't match, your brain automatically begins to get confused. And it starts to release some chemicals, and that turns into anxiety and turns into at that point in time, heart rate could increase. I could hyperventilate. There's a lot of things that could happen. I need to make sure that I physically remember to relax and understand and trust the instruments. Because you will get a miscompare if you're flying and you cannot see outside. Outside looks like it's motionless. But inside your ears, you've got motion. You've got some sort of motion. And that will naturally cause an irregular response by your brain. Okay? These three semicircular canals are attached or aligned exactly like the vertical, longitudinal, and lateral axis in the airplane. So they're designed to give the exact same reactions that I'd experience in the airplane, okay? You have fluid inside there that's going to move at some sort of rate when it accelerates. And then the small hairs inside that fluid are the receptors that send that signal to your brain and say, oh, look, we're accelerating on this axis. Ooh, now we're accelerating on this axis. Ooh, now we're accelerating on this axis. And that constantly occurs. That's constantly running. Okay? If you have no acceleration at all, then the cupula is stationary, and this is the cupula inside here of that fluid, and the hair cells are not deflected. You have no turn indication at all. A turn, in this case, is just the lateral motion around one of those semicircular canals. Could be any kind of acceleration. Once you initiate, this says a clockwise turn, but that's just to give an offset here. It says you initiate a clockwise turn, it deflects the hair cells in the direction opposite of the acceleration, right? That, I think, comes back to Newton's laws again. Body in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon. So you've got fluid inside here. Your semicircular canal moves as a response to your head moving and your body moving. The fluid remains motionless, deflects the hair cell. Now we get an experience, an accurate sensation of the turn direction. But hang on. Remember, your eyes don't see anything. So far, this is okay. I'm thinking that I'm making a turn. My brain comprehends a turn. These are good things. Life is good so far. As I continue to maintain the turn, the fluid inside that cupula, all that cupula fluid inside the semicircular canal will stop moving. It will rest because I have a constant rate turn. So during a prolonged constant rate turn, I don't sense any motion. The fluid canals eventually reaches equilibrium, and these hair cells show no turn. As I bank the airplane to straighten, all right, we're straight, we banked, we began a turn. Now I got constant rate turn, there's no motion. As I straighten up, the hair cells go in the opposite direction. So if you decrease the rate of turn, in other words, make the airplane fly straight, the deflection of the hair cells may produce a false sensation of a turn in the opposite direction. My brain comprehends that I'm turning in the opposite direction. I am not stopping a turn. I'm actually turning in the opposite direction. This can cause you to get sick. unless you remember that the instruments are correct. If you haven't experienced it yet, and you think I'm up here talking about wizardry, I can't wait for you to get inside a cloud, all right? It's a good time. This stuff actually occurs, and it won't cause a crash as long as I know and I can appreciate these effects. If I know and I can anticipate what's happening with this thing, then not a problem at all. Feel a little uneasy? Okay, but I'm cool, just like Fonzie, because I know what my instrument says.
We have these classes in SkyEagle Aviation Academy. Check out please our website www.atp.academy for details.
Okay, a couple of other ones. Remember we had a few there talking about different things. So I got Coriolis illusion. This one is fun, and you can duplicate Coriolis illusion. If I get, and I think I got the slide on here still. If I get a chair, a swivel chair that rotates around, and I put somebody in that chair, and then I put a blindfold on them, okay? And I make them, it usually tells me to make them bend their head or twist their head one side or another. But you could do this to make them look down. And the FAA does this with a really crappy flight simulator in a box. And you can't see the motion. And they make you fly this flight simulator. And it's terrible. And you're looking down like this. On the outside, or you, somebody else who takes the blindfolded person sitting in the swivel chair, just rotate them around, nice and easy. They don't even know they're rotating, okay? You could tell them, okay, you're actually turning, all right, that's fine. When this person tries to straighten their head and stand up, they will fall down. And I don't mean dizzy bat. I don't mean, make them spin around and around and around and around. You're just barely moving them. All you're doing is getting that fluid moving in a direction. And when they change the direction of that semicircular canal, remember what that Coriolis illusion is. It's going to bend it 90 degrees to the right. So they will experience a violent turn 90 degrees in the right of the direction of that fluid. Okay? It's really, really fun. All right. Don't let anybody drink a little bit. Like have a little alcohol, because, that's a good alcohol fun, party game. Nah, they're going to make a mess. All right. Anyways, graveyard spiral. A loss of altitude and a prolonged constant rate turn may be interpreted as a wings level descent. So here what I have is my pilot who has the airplane banked, and they see that they're losing a little bit of altitude. They attempt to correct that loss in altitude by increasing the elevator pressure. But in increasing that elevator pressure, remember, you do have some slight overbanking. And I say slight, I mean, this is not likely. You got to be really disoriented to have this happen. This isn't going to get every other pilot that tries to fly, okay? But if you're really disoriented, you're already stressed, you were fatigued before you went on the flight, you might have been borderline I'm safe and maybe I shouldn't have flown. You might have some weather conditions that you didn't anticipate. You're at night, now you entered a cloud and you didn't mean to. The airplane begins to bank and you try to increase the elevator pressure without observing that bank. You could continue to increase the bank and get into a situation where you're trying to maintain altitude and just increasing the rate of turn. And it's a graveyard spiral, okay? All right, the leans. The leans are interesting. It occurs when an abrupt recovery or rapid correction is made to a bank. If you make a recovery, your semicircular canal sends their roll in the opposite direction, just like we discovered here. It's the leans. Somatographic illusion, rapid acceleration illusion that you're in a nose-high attitude. So if you accelerate rapidly, you get a nose-high attitude. That's what the sensation is in your head. Great thing about Cessnas, they don't accelerate rapidly. Right? It's just not going to happen. You could accelerate rapidly using gravity, and then you'll think your nose up, I suppose. All right. Inversion illusion. An abrupt change from a climb to a straight and level flight can create the feeling that you're tumbling backwards. So I'm climbing, life is good, I'm a little bit okay, I didn't really want to be here where I am, it's nighttime, and maybe I'm tired, whatever. Ooh, there's my altitude, and I meant to put, this could make you feel as if you're tumbling, okay? And you're tumbling backwards. These are all normal responses that the body will make as a result of some unusual flight attitudes. While you're flying like this, you will experience unusual flight attitudes. In case you haven't done it already or seen videos or whatever else, it's a great thing. And it's required in the private pilot program. You have the foggles on. Some instructors don't even put the foggles on anymore. Who knows? You're going to put the foggles on, okay? You close your eyes, you put your head down, and then the instructor plays, let's try to barrel roll the airplane and make the student sick. The idea is not to make you sick. The idea is to make you experience some of this, okay? So I'm going to put you in a situation, artificial situation, that makes you experience some of this. And then, as a control measure, of course, there's an instructor there, but I will say the word recover. And at that point in time, that's where we transfer the controls. I no longer have control of the airplane. You assume control of the airplane and fix whatever went wrong, okay? So that's your unusual flight attitudes. It's a great time. Okay, oxygen. Remember we said there was a whole bunch of things about oxygen that we had to discuss. Okay, what's the oxygen percentage at flight level 320? Thank you. I don't think we're going to have any trouble out of this class at all. Some pilots will say, well, there's less oxygen up there. That's not true. But what do I have less of? Less pressure. Just real quick, how does my body absorb oxygen? Okay, I breathe in, goes into my lungs. Now what? Yeah, there's some pressure that brings it into my lungs, but I have capillaries, little air sacs. And around each one of these microscopic air sacs, there are very, very small blood vessels called capillaries. There's a very thin membrane there, a super thin membrane. And under normal pressures, there's enough partial pressure there for the oxygen to go through that membrane and enter my bloodstream, okay? That's called your partial pressure. So I got the exact same amount of oxygen when I get up to altitude, the same percentage. But when I breathe in, there's less partial pressure. So less of that oxygen is going to cross that membrane and enter my bloodstream. My brain and my eyes require a significant amount of oxygen. So when they're deprived, I get some unwanted reactions, okay? Oxygen's inhaled, lung, and carbon monoxide is exhaled. Oxygen is transferred from the lungs to the bloodstream by diffusion through the thin membranes, small air sacs. Here are your cells in the capillaries, and they're going straight in. Oxygen comes in, CO2 comes out, we exhale the CO2, right? Easy stuff, correct? Anybody lost on that? We don't have to do lung surgery today. We just have to figure out how this thing works a little bit, so the same percentage everywhere in the atmosphere. Now, a result of a lack of oxygen in the blood, or lack of the blood to properly oxygenate. Maybe I've been kicking back on too many vodkas all night long and my blood won't absorb the oxygen because of that. Or I'm smoking cigarettes and my blood won't absorb oxygen, carbon monoxide, a wide array of reasons which could cause me to experience this. The primary one on a healthy pilot is altitude. So if I experience hypoxia, these are the symptoms: headache, decreased reaction time, impaired judgment, euphoria just meaning, hey, I'm literally dying. And I can probably comprehend that I'm dying, But that is okay right now. I'm all right with it. It's fine. It's, hey, you know what? I'm going to die. You got to do it sometime. That's not a good thought process, right?
Is it really decreased time, not increased?
What's that?
Decreased time. Wow. The time is...
So if you're reading this literally, let me tell you about, yeah, you're correct. My reaction time, the delta between an event and my response, that doesn't decrease. Unfortunately, the way with Common Core math and everything else, the way that youngsters in America learn things, anything that gets better is increased and anything that gets worse is decreased. Yeah, welcome to America. It's frustrating. We were talking about that today, right? Yeah. All right, so yeah, a less favorable reaction time. That's how that reads to the 21-year-olds in America, okay? But I understand exactly what you said. Visual impairment, drowsiness, lightheaded or dizzy sensation, tingling in fingers and toes, numbness, blue fingernails. If you have cyanosis, I had a physician in one of my classes and said, if you get to the point that you have blue fingernails, you're probably just going to play with your blue fingernails until you crash, okay? Because you're already gone, all right? And limp muscles. These could occur as a response to improper blood oxygenation. All right, time of useful consciousness. Let's say not explosive decompression, but let's just say I have a rapid decompression event. If I'm flying at 45,000 feet MSL, because pilots get really sketchy about this 12,500 feet. Hell, I fly with private pilots. We go through this thing with hypoxia, and then we go out to the training area, and I say, hey, let's climb up and let's keep going until the temperature's nice and cool. And we're crossing 4,000 feet, and they're like, man, we might get hypoxia. You're nowhere close to hypoxia, okay? Let me just give you some confidence here. It's probably because your other flight instructors always kept you at 2,000 feet. I don't know why they do that. I still can't figure them out. But some of them will only stay at a real low level. Here, 45,000 feet. If I'm at 45,000 feet in a pressurized airplane and it rapidly depressurizes, I get about 9 to 15 seconds of time that I can function properly as a human being. And then I turn into 1 + 1 = zoo. Okay? All right. 40,000 feet, 15 and so forth. You see the trend. I'm at a nice pressurization, and then all of a sudden, within a few seconds, I'm at 45,000 feet. Okay? Let's take a look at this. 22,000 feet. If you are at a 2,000, 3,000 foot cabin, and suddenly the cabin releases pressure, and within a matter of a couple of seconds, not an explosion, but in a matter of a couple of seconds, you're at 22,000 feet, you've got 5 to 10 minutes to figure this out. That's a long, long time, okay? All right, and same thing, 20,000 feet, you got 20 minutes or more. Now, why does the FAA tell me, what are my rules? Above 12,500 feet for 30 minutes, I gotta have supplemental oxygen on, okay? I could probably operate up there for much longer than 30 minutes. But in order to have all of my systems functioning properly at 100%, the FAA says after 30 minutes, you'll have it on above 12.5. And exactly at 14,000, above 14,000, you got to have it on. So I cruise at 14,000 for up to 30 minutes and not have anything on. Above 14,000, I got to have oxygen. Above 15,000, give it to your passengers, right? They don't need to fly the airplane. You could stay at 14,000 for the entire trip. After 30 minutes, I need to have oxygen. They're probably going to wonder what's going on, but they don't need it, okay? All right. A couple of things. Talking about the training center at Peterson Air Force Base. These guys pre-flight brief and oxygen equipment lab familiarize you with the flight profile. Then ear and sinus check is performed. The chamber goes up to 3,000 feet per minute to a simulated altitude of 6,000 feet. That's normal cabin pressure. You guys are flying airline flights, yeah, 6,000 feet, that's where you are. All right? That's called your differential pressure, your Diffie-P. And then descends to 2,000 feet. The chamber ascends to 8, and then you experience a rapid decompression, rapid. And a chamber ascends to 18,000 feet in 8 to 10 seconds. No problem. I'm at 18,000 feet all of a sudden. People usually function okay there. The chamber ascends at 3,000 feet in a minute to 25,000 feet. You remove your oxygen mask for a maximum of 5 to experience the symptoms of hypoxia. And then the chamber comes back down to ground level. They used to have this available. I don't know what the foreign criteria was, but they used to have this available to U.S. pilots. They don't make the same thing available any longer to U.S. pilots. It's a matter of budget. It's not a matter of anything else other than budgeting. But you could go to one of these and then experience that. And what they do is they give you a nice simple task. They have something like write your name down and then circle which one of these 3 things is a divided by sign. Just simple stuff. And then once you start demonstrating 2 or 3 mistakes, then they cancel that and make you put your mask back on. And most pilots, even at 25,000 feet, the old guy at our air charter, he's like 67 years old. Well, he flew helicopters in Vietnam, all right? And this guy went over there. He was with no mask on, 25,000 feet. He was in there like 30 minutes almost, just still writing his name, doing everything in the world, okay? So these things do exist. The hypoxia is a hazard, but again, it's not that you're going to fall completely apart at 10,000 feet or 11,000 feet. You still have plenty of useful consciousness. Now, some things that I could do to accelerate the process. I could be a smoker. That causes me to not be able to process oxygen as effectively. Clearly, I can't drink beforehand because I'm not drinking before I get on the flight. But if I do drink, this is another way for me to experience hypoxia on the ground because I don't have this is the inability of the cells to effectively use oxygen. So taking a look at it, hypoxic, this is inadequate supply of oxygen to the lungs. Hypoxia, this is us at altitude without an oxygen mask on. Hypemic hypoxia, inability for it to carry blood, such as smoking or carbon monoxide poisoning, which is very rare, but could occur, right? Stagnant hypoxia is inadequate circulation. So maybe I'm flying my airplane, I'm pulling a lot of G's, and the blood is just rushing down to my feet. Well, I could experience this. You gotta be in a steep turn for a long time to experience this stuff, okay? It's not likely. And then histotoxic hypoxia, that's what you do when you're at the bar. Okay. ... We know where these are. This is, remember, not at 12.5, but above, and above 14,000, and above 15,000 is what you look like. I got a nice little video if we get a chance to during the break. I want to have you guys listen to somebody that's experiencing hypoxia. All right, and hyperventilation. Hyperventilation, remember, sometimes this is a pilot-induced issue. A lot of times, stress and the normal reaction to anxiety could cause hyperventilation. I don't have a lack of oxygen in my bloodstream. I don't have too much oxygen in my bloodstream. What I have is a lack of that carbon dioxide. And a couple of these things that produce a pale, clammy experience and muscle spasms compared to the cyanosis and limp muscles associated with hypoxia. Other common symptoms, and some of these things are very, very parallel. Headache, all right. A less favorable reaction time. Impaired judgment, euphoria, visual impairment, drowsiness, lightheaded or dizziness, tingling and look, a lot of this stuff looks the exact same. The two that are different, I got the muscle spasms and a pale, clammy appearance. So these guys here are different for hypoxia or hyperventilation. How do I know which one I may have? And how do I treat each one? Well, the treatment for it, use supplemental oxygen. If I know for sure that my breathing rate is rapid, then that's time for me to slow my breath rate down. And they recommend doing that with a paper bag. Breathe into a paper bag and then breathe out and continue the process a little bit. Another process, couldn't make this up, they have it actually in the book, is talk out loud or sing. Right? So sing your favorite song and apparently you'll stop experiencing the symptoms of hyperventilation. I've not experienced this. I've seen pilots, student pilots usually borderline hyperventilation when we come in and they got all sorts of traffic coming all over the place, and it's a natural reaction to anxiety. So remember, if this happens, where's my paper bag? You probably don't have one. If you start talking out loud or singing out loud, somebody's probably like, what the heck is going on right now? Okay? So maybe just think, calm down, relax. Okay? That's the best thing to do for hyperventilation.